Hey everybody, it's your American F1 Journo here. We had a chance to catch up with Lee Mather, the franchise games director at Codemasters and the F1 game. We had a chance to talk about a number of topics, the state of play of Formula One as it prepares to restart the season, the upcoming F1 2020 game, and how just he's handling things during these troubling times. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our interview with Lee Mather.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big year for you and everyone at Codemasters. You know, you got the game getting ready to come out. We've got the season getting ready to restart.
Yeah.
You know, what's it been like so far? Have you been holding up during the lockdown?
It's not been as bad as I think it was expected. I mean, we sort of when it started to make it's like very start of the year, we started to think this could turn into something serious. And the tech guys all started working out how the hell can we all work from home, because we have people who work from home, but not an entire company. And
Yeah,
as you can imagine, the amount of data that we shift around is enormous. So, like, we were probably about 2 weeks away from being set up to work from home, and that's when the full lockdown came in.
oh
So
wow,
we were pretty much there, and within days, everybody had got their kit at home,
yeah,
and our service provider turned the line up for us within a week. And yeah, it was pretty seamless, but it's a little bit weird. I mean, we've been having, obviously everything's done over Teams now, so we have Teams meetings, and we try and get all the guys together from time to time just to just chat and not even talk about work, just to try and make sure everybody's all right, because there's a lot of guys like myself who live on their own, so it's like it's pretty sad at times to be sat there without anybody, just to say, oh, what did you watch on TV last night? What are you playing? What do you do? What are you doing for dinner? So yeah,
right.
we're trying to just sort of keep the contact up as well as the work stuff as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
keep
not
the
as bad as
morale up,
expected.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Were you able to get all the data that you needed for the game before the lockdown? Because you guys start pretty early before you get started on the game, right?
Yeah, so there'll obviously be the things like vehicle performance. We've had to do. We've gone off the first test, and we've gone off the end of last season, and we've gone off sort of the idea of what some of the guys at Formula One have said they suspect the season order will be. So vehicle performance, it's more of a calculated guess than it would normally be. In terms of like the cars and the models and things, obviously we had all the data from the teams, but then occasionally teams make changes at the last minute, as we've seen today. So that was a new one. So
Yeah,
we'll
Mercedes
look
new
at.
livery. When
Yeah.
something like that happens, are you able to get that adjustment? You know, are you going to be able to get that adjustment in before launch next week, or is that going to be something that's going to have to come later on in an update?
Yeah, that will have to come in an update. Even if we could magically create it instantly and put it in the game, there's still a submission process with Sony and Microsoft that the game has to go through. So there's always it's not just a case of we can do it and instantly put it in. It's got a turnaround time no matter what. But I mean, at this point, we still have to get the actual assets themselves, create them for the vehicles, and it's not just the car. I mean, people always go, "Oh, why can't you update the car?" And it's like, well, they're doing the race suits, and I believe the drivers are having different helmet designs
Right.
from what we've seen.
Yeah,
So yeah, so
it's going to be
it's
a
quite
total
a large
change.
amount of work. But obviously, we've always updated the game.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
always updated the game post launch, and this is something that we'll obviously push as hard as we can to get done as quickly as possible.
I think you guys, your heads are going to probably spin because this is going to look like it's going to be a pretty crazy season,
Ooh.
given the circumstances. So a lot of things may end up changing.
Yeah,
There's talk of Magello being added to this calendar. Obviously we're not sure about having a U.S. Grand Prix. The way things are looking over here, I doubt it. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty bad in Texas right now. And as much as Coda would like to have it, I just don't think in terms of logistics, it's going to work to just fly all the way over here to the United States, do one race, because usually we go to Mexico afterwards,
yeah,
and then we're off to Brazil, but being that Brazil, is really bad and Mexico is really bad, and now Texas is really bad. This doesn't look like that would be a viable option. So I think the only way I'm going to end up getting to Austin is that you're going to have to put me in the game somewhere in the paddock. So
I'd say yeah. So next time, so when things go back to normal, if you're at any of the tests in the start of the season, that's when we scan the drivers. So we do obviously scan. Everybody's 3D scanned in the game. So it's not just a case of, so you could send us a photo, but we can't do that. So we have to we have somebody scan every face, and they have like this handheld 3D scanner, and it looks a little bit like an iron, and they pan round and it digitizes the face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And this game, I mean, you guys, I mean, I'm thinking about how long this game's been out. It's been 11 years now. You guys have been doing this for a long time. I mean, what does it feel like having over a decade now and being like the official game of F1? I mean,
yeah, it's it doesn't really, I don't really think about it too much, because it has been a very long time, and for most people in gaming to work on an annual franchise for that period of time is unique. There's not many people who do that. I guess the guys on sort of FIFA and Madden or NFL, for example, there's probably a large contingent who've been on those for a long time. I just think it's a great opportunity that every year we can, because obviously there's only so much you can do in a 12-month or an 18-month, 2-year dev. It gives you the opportunity to build for the long term. And I think that's something that we're really lucky with, that you wouldn't get if we were only doing it every 2 years, or even if we were only doing once every 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm excited that we've actually finally brought into the game some of the things that we've wanted to do for years.
Yeah, and it's been, like I said, it's been a big, these 3 months, even though we've been in this lockdown, it's been a big year for esports and for your game, like, because it's been thrust into the spotlight, with the F1 Grand Prix, virtual Grand Prix series. We had a chance to see a lot of the drivers get involved in it. And I've talked to people now that are like, oh, wow, I didn't know, this was, esports existed. This is all new to me. People are freaking out because like the game looks so real and it's so realistic, and they couldn't really tell the difference between your game and they thought they were watching an actual race. So that's got to be huge, to have your game now in sort of the mainstream, with all the the virtual events that we've had lately.
Yeah, we've been pretty blown away by it, to be honest. I mean, every year that we've done the esports, I mean, you were there out in Abu Dhabi with us. That was big for the first year. And the exposure it got was big for gaming fans, and it was big for F1 fans. But the F1 fans have taken a little while to warm to the fact that a virtual race is authentic and is exciting and is worth watching. And every year we've pulled in more fans from both the gaming and the F1 side. But F1's got quite a lot of mature fans, a bit like myself, and they're maybe not so much into gaming. Whereas this year it's been front and center. It's been the only F1 fix they've been able to get. So people have watched it and they've gone, well, wow, this is really exciting. It's like you've got real Formula One drivers racing on authentic Formula One tracks in the cars that they would be driving in real life, but with equal car performance as well, which is a real leveler. So right. I think that's been amazing. And also the drivers have been amazing. They've been hilarious. They've been such great characters. They've been such great sports. And I think a lot of people have enjoyed the fact that it's been done in a slightly more light-hearted way as well, having some celebrities in there. It's really put it front and center, and it's accelerated that that esports program, I think, quite significantly.
It really has, because like I said, it's given an opportunity in the mainstream, for people to see, people at home, the different kinds of rigs and setups, because people see, people who are not gamers and people who are not familiar with playing these games, think that's just like a controller and you guys are just sitting in front of a TV racing game, but they see the seats, they see the steering wheels, the setups, and they're like, wow, it's like they're in an actual car, and they're just blown away by this. And I think it's been very successful. I mean, they pulled the series pulled 30 million viewers, I mean, and between TV and online, so huge year for esports and for the F1 game, so it's been absolutely incredible to see this. And hopefully, are you hoping to see more of this? I mean, for it to be that sort of filler in between races, in between the season, to find that balance now of having, esports here in F1 and in real life, and maybe doing more events like the Grand Prix, the virtual Grand Prix series. Who knows? Maybe even get the team principals, to do an event. I would love to see like a Christian Horner, Toto Wolff, one-on-one.
I think that'd be hilarious. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously working on the esports program for this year. Obviously that's changed a little bit because of the situation. Traditionally people would be traveling all around the world to come and play and race in the UK or wherever whichever venue we choose to use. So that's obviously going to change a little bit this year. And we've been in some ways, because due to the unfortunate circumstances, we've been very lucky to have the time of the drivers, because normally they'd be flat out on the road traveling with Formula One, and to have them at locations where we can get them rigs, where we can get them internet connections, where they can actually race, would be logistically really difficult with them traveling all around the world. So in some ways, it's actually obviously made that achievable for us. But I think because they've also had such a great time, and we've got the guys all close to the betas as well, so they've tried the beta, so they're all really getting really engaged now in playing the F1 game, and also giving us great feedback on what we're doing with 2020. So really, even though the circumstances in which it's all come about are really unfortunate, it's actually had a lot of benefits, a lot of positive side effects for the game, and I think for F1.
Yeah, and I think it's done also a lot to keep people occupied. I mean, during these troubling times, to give them something to do, because I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have gone stir crazy sitting at home. We've burnt out our streaming services. Probably, you've watched probably everything you could possibly watch on there. So it's good to have something like this where you have such an immersive experience, and you guys seem to step the game up every year. Last year, you had you had create your own livery. You had things like you introduced F2. It was a lot of features in this game, and now this year you've stepped it up even more. And now you've added the feature that I've been waiting for you to add, that we talked about, and that was creating your own team. Talk a little bit about what you're going to do this year, and going into what we're going to expect from creating your own team.
Yeah, so I think, as we've spoken about before, it's something that we've wanted to do from pretty much the very beginning, but it's always been just out of reach, or there've been other things that we've been working on, because it is a huge feature. It's absolutely vast. It's technically very difficult, but also there were things that we needed in place that we felt that if we didn't have them, it was going to be I wouldn't say a waste of time, but it would have fallen short of our expectations, and definitely short of the expectations of the public. So things like, we wanted to make sure we could have real engine suppliers. That's a real thing that you aspire to, isn't it? Picking the engine that you want for your team. That's a key component. So we wanted to make sure we could do that. But also the drivers, that was probably the biggest thing for us. The big question has always been, if you create your own team, who's your teammate?
Right.
And we'd say, well, we could have fictional teammates. It's like, it doesn't feel right. It's not. Why would I want to get Jim from round the corner when I want Lewis Hamilton, I want Charles Leclerc. But then the question comes back. It's like, well, where do you get the first driver from? You can't steal from a real team, because who are they going to have? So that's why last year's introduction of F2 was a key building block to allowing us to do my team, because instantly we've got a field of drivers whose aim is to make that step into Formula One. So that gives us the starting of the driver market. So we had to have a driver market, and the only way we could do that would be to have F2 drivers and F1 drivers. So the engine supplier and the drivers were the key components to allowing us to allow the player to create a team. And then obviously, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, continue. Sorry.
I say, and obviously sponsorship's also another major part as well. So we wanted to be able to have the custom car, which we have from last year's game, obviously updated to this year's spec, but the custom car allows us to have sponsors placed upon it. And while fictional, the reason we have fictional sponsors is it gives us a much broader scope for what we can do. Obviously, there's significant rules around how sponsorship's used, and ones that could and couldn't go together, and the way that certain sponsors require their colours and things to be represented. So we wanted to have a broad selection of sponsors that would give the player the opportunity to really customize their car, but also with different goals and targets as well.
And now you won't be able to. Now, you didn't allow anyone to have the ability to import their own graphic or anything to put on the car, or their own images or anything at this point.
No, it's all done from within the game. So you can pick the sponsors, and then you can change the colors to suit your livery. And obviously you can pick your livery and then change the colors to build your team. Allowing players to import it would be quite risky for something in a licensed product.
Yeah, because I know some games allow that, but that really gets into the crazy legalities of, like you said, licensing. When it comes to people wanting to import, they might want to import a different logo or a different company's logo or something to put on their car. And I can understand that probably gets a little messy sometimes.
Yeah, it's obviously we create the fully officially licensed Formula One game. So, in theory, people shouldn't really be going poking around changing the liveries on the cars because they are modeled as for the season.
Right. Now, will we be able to take our created cars online and race, or is this strictly just standalone single player mode?
Yeah, so my team is a single player offline game mode, and the vehicle liveries themselves. So if you've created yourself a livery for your My Team, you can take that online as well and drive it visually in the same way. But the upgrades, the teammates and things like that, they're all tied very much to the single player experience in My Team.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. At least I can take my livery online and race it against everyone, because I think that really brings in a whole personalized experience into the game where you're able to say, okay, this is my car, my livery, my team racing against everyone else, and like I said, you've always created this really immersive experience, and now you've put a really personal touch to it by allowing people to create their own liveries, personalize their car to a point to where they can say, hey, this is my car, this is the way it looks, it stands out in the replays, and it just puts a real nice personal feel to it.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where we couldn't have really done My Team if we hadn't built that previously. So again, that was another feature in 2019 that was another great stepping stone to allow us to do this.
Now, is there anything that you didn't get a chance to put in this year's game that you will look forward to putting in next year's game?
Do you know what? We actually hit all of our goals. We obviously have to spec things out very early, so it's quite rare that things ever fall off because we don't have the time to mess around and waste time on things. So pretty much, I think everything that we wanted to do is in. And yeah, I think that there were a few weeks towards the end of the development where we actually made some significant changes to some of the elements, but they were always there and in place. We just wanted to find better ways to present them to the player. Things like the driver market, for example, in contract negotiations are absolutely key to My Team, and we weren't happy with how they were presented, so we made some changes to those. But again, that's work that we did. So other than just refining things that we wanted to do slightly better, we actually got everything that we wanted.
Nice. Now it has a nice balance of online and single player mode. You keep a strong single player mode, and you've also managed to grow a really nice online community, especially with the esports series. Those who want to join up and feel that they want to compete, they're able to. But you've also added sort of a create your own league, for those who can't spend 12 hours a day racing and really dedicating a lot of time to try to shoot for the the more pro level. And are you planning to expand upon that with the building of the leagues and making it to where those of us who are just sort of casual players but want to compete still have a place to do that?
Yeah, so leagues was a new feature in 2019, and we're still seeing good engagement with leagues. What we're going to do with the leagues is we'll see how things play out again post-launch, look to make any changes then, see if we need to expand on that feature. But I mean, you mentioned obviously the making the game accessible to people as well. I mean, that's a big thing that we've done this year with the offline modes, which is to bring in the accessibility features. So we've really made the game a lot easier for people, because we do watch how people play the game, and we do focus testing. We watch how people struggle with certain elements. So accessibility this year is one of a really big pillar for us. It's something that we've been trying to resolve for some time, because no matter how many assists you put in a racing game, some people just can't play a racing game. They love Formula One, but they can't drive a racing game. Certainly not one as fast as F1.
Yeah.
So that's why we've put in So that's why we've got a steering assist in there now, which actually helps them to actually steer the car. We've also put in the ability to drive on the off-track surfaces without all the punishment of gravel and grass and all the bumps and things, and also an automatic reset to track, because even on a track where you can drive on all the off-track surfaces, somewhere like Baku, you go down an escape road and you've got to try and 3-point turn a Formula One car or donut
Right.
it, and again, it's difficult. So we've hopefully now bridged that gap to the player who loves Formula One, loves to watch the sport, wants to play the game, but finds it really challenging. So hopefully that's a gap that we've bridged.
Yeah, hopefully, because you can tell those who are playing with the controller and those who are playing with the steering wheel. So it's sort of, and this game does sort of really require a steering wheel at times. But though I have seen some people pretty quick with a controller. But in terms of, now this is the question, in terms of online racing, have you been able to do any improvements to the stewarding AI? Because we often have races, and them, first turn, for some reason somebody wants to use you as a brake, you know, and they don't get that harsh penalty that you're like, wait, whoa, I got rammed in the back, and this guy didn't get like a 10-second, 5-second stop through penalty for doing that. So have you worked on maybe improving that to where it's a little more accurate? It can penalize the people necessary.
Yeah, so that's a system where we are tweaking it constantly. It's very much a case of you generally find yourself moving the bar one way or the other. It's really hard to get a balance. So there are so many things that have to get taken into account. And when you consider that in real life, it's very hard for a person to actually mediate as to whether somebody caused an incident or not. We obviously have to do that with purely the facts that happen in the game. And obviously what happens next is also going to play into it. So it's like if there's an impact, has somebody gained or has somebody lost from it? Is the damage, isn't the damage? Corner cutting is obviously a big issue for us. So essentially those systems have significant reworkings every year. And until it gets played in real anger by people, it's very hard to tell whether that's moved it in one way or another.
Yeah.
But again, we've been spending some time recently because we've been watching obviously the esports. So the VGPs have thrown up some obvious corner cuts and exploits that we've been trying to address. So it's just trying to find that balance. It's trying to pick out, and again, because it's quite subjective in the sport as well. So, you know, you see certain races and somebody will run wide on a corner and they'll do it every lap.
Right.
So it'll just be left.
Yeah.
Whereas if we adhere to the rules that if more than, you know, if the tires are over the white line and both tires on both sides of the car are over the white line and we penalise, well, that might be fair on 75% of the track, but there's 25% where it's perfectly acceptable.
Right.
So it's like we have to be, but we can't make that call. So it's a real balancing act, and it's something that we can thankfully tweak, you know, later on if we need to.
Yeah.
But we've certainly seen from the esports.
Yeah, your challenge is just like you said, your challenge of stewarding in the virtual world is just as challenging as it is in the real world. You know,
it really
it's
is,
like that turn one in Bahrain. You know, I've seen people cut across that apex and no penalty. You know, and then I've seen people, you know, go further down, get that penalized on like turn 3 or turn 4. You know, it's crazy. So yeah, I can understand. Yeah, that's understandable to see that. It's the challenges you have there are crazy because people just, I don't know, you get in there, they just feel like, oh, I don't know how to use the brake, and next thing you know, you're like, ran off the track. So
yeah,
but
I mean,
oh no, go ahead, Lee.
I was going to say, I think if somebody's playing it sort of relatively seriously and they've got damage on as well, then that's where the player behind's obviously going to come off worse. Because the guy ahead's got there's no real damage to the rear of the car. Obviously, the incident's going to cause a problem, but the guy behind will hopefully lose their front wing in that sort of incident.
Yeah, it seems like you always find people exploiting those little areas inside the game. Like guys will do that. You know, I've seen guys ghost real quick, you know, through some areas, you know, and try to play those games. And it's interesting the things that people come up with when they're racing online to try to gain an advantage. So
yeah. In any game where there's a competitive advantage to be found, somebody will find it. And we've been really lucky, as I mentioned earlier on. We've had some of the F1 drivers obviously playing the beta. We've had some of the esports guys feeding back, and we've had access to some of the engineers, the teams that we've never really had so much access to. And they've been treating the VGPs like they would a real race weekend, the way they've done the build-up and the practice. And that means that they've been obviously looking for every little advantage, and they've been feeding back to us. So for the beta, for example, we got some great stuff back from the guys at Mercedes, and we made those changes. So now the game's benefited, you know, from being less exploitable in certain areas that they did find exploits in. So the game will come out and nobody will ever know what they were.
Wow, that's amazing. Like that, you have this ecosystem going on, you know, of all this feedback to just continuously improve upon the game, you know, and this happens throughout the year. I take it that you're constantly getting data, making changes through updates and patches and whatnot. What is it? And like I said, it's going to be a crazy season this year. Will we see a hefty amount of DLC? Because obviously people, you know, play this game, they're diehards, they're going to burn through, you know, most of the stuff really quickly. How do you find ways to keep up with that, you know, and keep it fresh and keep it new for everybody playing throughout the time until the next game comes out?
Yeah, so there's something that we are going to announce soon. which I can't talk about, unfortunately,
Uh,
yet. I think
Lee, you're gonna do me like
I think you're literally like a day early.
Oh man.
Uh, but there's something to be announced this week, which will very much answer that question about the longevity and keeping people interested in wanting to continue playing the game.
Interesting.
There is
Are
something.
you
There's
gonna
something.
give you
There's
that
something.
exclusive, huh, Lee?
I would love to, but I believe the press release is still to be signed off by the usual parties. But yeah, there's something coming this week, something new. But obviously, content-wise, we'll update the game based on obviously changes in the sport if we can and where we can. So, for example, we spoke about Mercedes. That's something we really want to get into the game as soon as possible. Obviously, Williams had their change, so we did that because obviously we built the car as it was originally going to be, and
Right.
then they had their sponsor change during the break,
Right.
the enforced break. So yeah, so that's something we did. Driver statistics, we'll continue to upgrade those as well. So if drivers are doing better or worse, we can change driver statistics, and we'll look at obviously livery changes and car performance changes. But in terms of keeping players interested for longer, there's something coming.
Excellent. Well, we can't wait to find out what that's going to be. Now, I won't keep you much longer, Lee, but let's talk shop real quick. We've got a big 2 weeks coming up. We've got the restart of F1. We're going to Austria. It's going to be a double hitter. The next week is going to be another race in Austria and your game coming out. Who do you think is going to take this first race? Who do you have down in the top three of this weekend?
Ooh, so I want to say Lewis for the win, but I kind of feel like there's a good possibility that Max will do it. I mean, we saw what he did last year at Austria. I don't think Lewis is as strong at Austria as he is at a lot of other circuits, but you can never discount him. But I don't want to put an order on it, but the top three for me is most likely going to be a Lewis, Leclerc, Verstappen, top three, I would say.
Interesting. Okay. All right. And then, of course, everyone's going to get a healthy dose of F1 the week after with a second race in Austria and then the release of F1 2020. Now, you have two versions, two editions this year. You've got the Michael Schumacher edition. You've got the standard edition. What's going to be the difference between the two editions that are coming out?
Yeah, so if you pre-order the game and get the standard version of the game, you'll get the 70 edition. So that comes with that's celebrating the 70th anniversary of Formula One. So in there we've got some additional content. So you've got a skin for the car, race suit, a podium emote, so you can do a different jump on the podium, and a badge. So that comes with some nice items. And then if you buy the Schumacher edition, obviously we've got some content in there as well. So there's a selection of skins for the cars, which are inspired by Michael, by Germany, by the teams he's driven for, and by his foundation, the Keep Fighting Michael Foundation. So you'll see some of that livery come through into those car skins. Again, there's also race suits and helmets, and then importantly, we've got 4 cars as well. So I think we've probably spoken about this, but we've wanted to get the Jordan for a very long time, and we finally got the ability to put the Jordan 191 in. So that's just beautiful. It really is a gorgeous, gorgeous car. And then obviously we've got the championship winning Benettons, the 194 and the 195, which again, amazing looking cars. Again, very different to something we've had before, and cars that we've been looking for a long time. And then the 2000 Ferrari, which is essentially the car that just set Ferrari and Michael off on that unprecedented run of championships.
Yeah.
So all 4 of them are iconic in their own way. Some for the same reasons, some for different reasons. But yeah, amazing content that we've wanted to bring to the game for a while.
Wow, you're gonna have everybody salivating with all those with that roster of classic iconic F1 cars, man. That's gonna be incredible to get. Now everybody will be able to pick all this up on all platforms. So whatever your flavor, pick your poison. Xbox, PlayStation, PC, even Stadia. I believe you guys are gonna be on Stadia as well. And it will be out July 10th. And everybody can pick it up. Be sure to pick it up because this is an incredible game. If you've never played F1, the F1 series, you definitely should because it's a great experience. You guys have continued to just impress. Just continue to push the envelope every single time. You guys continue to push the envelope in terms of bringing everyone into this world of F1. Whether you're a new fan, whether you're an old fan, And whether you've never played a virtual racing game before in your life, this is something incredible to see. So I really think you guys keep up the good work and everything that you're doing. And, enjoy the race. Enjoy the race this weekend, Lee. Even though we won't be there, we're still going to be there. We all sit at home and watch it.
I know. It's been really trolling me this week, but I keep looking at my Facebook memories. And obviously this time last year, I just got back from Austria. I spent obviously last year at the Austrian Grand Prix, which was obviously amazing. So it's quite sad to not be able to go out there this year. And I'd got planned a trip to Zandvoort as well earlier in the year, and obviously that's not happened either. But we've got things to look forward to.
Yeah. So well, I think time will tell how things are going to turn out for the rest of the season, and we'll just have to, be patient, and until the time being, we can all sit back, relax, and enjoy playing F1 2020. So, thank you, Lee, for joining me and joining us here and talking with us about this wonderful game that you've created. You guys at Codemasters just continue to keep up the good work and really just bring this immersive experience to everybody.
Cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We want to thank Lee Mather for joining us here on The Rundown, and be sure to pick up F1 2020 when it comes out on all platforms July 10th. So until then, everyone, I'll see you when the lights go out.